Welcome friends! Let's get you started needle felting. Here I'm going to be doing a rectangle for the top of our American flag. As you can see, I've laid blue wool roving on my background and I'm starting to make it into the rectangle shape for the top. I've started in a corner, I'll do the edges, and then I'll go back in and start poking into the middle as I go. So I go from one side, poking the edge into place, then I'll poke in the center to make sure the wool is secured. I'll continue to shape this into a rectangle, and I'm going to go over it and over it and over it again, because if you don't, the wool will be really fluffy. You want to poke it until it gets deep and secured down so you don't lose your stars. Your stars want to stand out, and if the wool is just too fluffy, they'll get lost. There may be, as you continue to poke this and get it really firm and secure down in there, you might see what appear to be divots in there. Don't worry. Those are just signs that you're really securing it, and you won't be able to notice them one bit. If they're bothering you, you can always add more blue to the top of your wool and poke and stab the needle in at a more narrow angle, less than 90 degrees, like a 45-degree angle, so they aren't as noticeable. However, it will cause the wool to be a little bit more fluffy. Now for the stripes. I've taken a good thick bunch of this red, and you can see I'm rolling it into my fingers and I'm pulling it a little bit. I'm doing that because I want the wool to be directional, a stripe instead of a clump, and I'm also doing it because I don't want it to be too thick in one area. So rolling it has helped me. I also don't want it to be too thin. That's another reason why it's good to roll it, because you can feel the width in your hand. And as I'm starting to poke, I'm watching really carefully to make sure I don't have any of that black come through. And if I did, I'd do the exact same thing. I'd take a piece of red, I'd roll it into a snake and lay it on top. And I'd poke more, about a fourth, well, maybe like an eighth an inch from where I start that new snake, and poking that along with the rest of the red until the end of the stripe. The reason why you don't poke as much when you start right at the beginning of that wool is it'll start to look like a clump. So you will need to go back and poke to secure that and to make sure it looks seamless. But to really secure it, start within about an eighth of an inch of where you lay down that roving. So keep going. Go all the way to the end with your stabbing of your needle felting, and I'm kind of tucking in some of those wispies as I go along, you can see, but keep going. Next is your white stripe. Do the exact same thing as your red. You can see that I've gotten a whole bunch. It looks a little thick, so I'll start to stab, and if I need to pull off some, I can. But it's the exact same technique for all of the stripes. So keep going, you can do it. So next, to make the stars, you don't need a lot of wool roving to do that. You can see I just have a little wisp in my hand, and I'm even pulling some off. This doesn't have to be perfect. Just do the best you can. The things that I'm rolling are really not that long either. So keep that in mind as you get to work. So I'm rolling it here in my fingers in order to get the fibers tight together. And I didn't want to poke my fingers, so I laid it on my wool there, and I'm securing it on one end and moving it with my needle. And I've gone to one point and to the next, and then I've gone back and started to put the middle in. If you were to poke and shape one of the points one at a time, your wool roving would go only in that hole. So if you poke at the point of the one of the tips of the star and then go back and point the other and secure it in between, as you go along, the star will stay fluffy. It won't all be poked through your wool. So here I go again. I'm doing the same thing. I'm kind of pulling that long, wispy wool in. I'm rolling it in my fingers and folding it over so I get a thicker width of the wool roving. And once I kind of got that into a snake again, I'm taking it and using my needle to poke into one of the corners, and you can see that the wool is just sucking into where I'm poking. And so I'm going to pause here and poke all the way through, securing it in the center, and I'm still holding it with my finger. But in order to not poke myself, I went ahead and moved my finger, and I'm tucking all of the white right there where it needs to be, and will go along with my needle felting in that white strip. The next point is created with even less wool roving, so I'm poking it in just a little thin strand. Keep going, there's more stars to be done with this same technique.